Welcome back to Yamcha Therapy with Hayden. You've probably heard of Fred. Yup, the guy with the couch and the obsession with dreams. But today, we're not just talking about Fred, we're diving into how psychodynamic theory has evolved, why it still matters, and how it helps us make sense of our relationship today. Think of psychodynamic theory as that book series you read as a kid. Maybe it started with just one character, but over time, the story expanded, the world deepened, and now new authors brought fresh twist to the plot. It's kind of like that, but in psychology. You get what I'm saying. So picture this. It's the late 1800s and Sigmund Freud is dropping psychological theories like they're mixtape all around it. He talks about the unconscious mind, repression, and even something called the Oedipus complex. But let's be honest, Freud's idea were groundbreaking and it's weird. But here's the thing, psychodynamic theory didn't stop with Freud. It's like a franchise that kept adding more layers. Think Melanie Klein, who explore how children experience relationships emotionally. She came up with splitting that tendency to see people as good or bad. And honestly, we've been there. Ever had a boss who's either the hero or the villain of your life story? Depending on the day, that's split in action. Then we get to Donald Winnicott, I believe, an absolute legend. He gave us the good enough mother idea, which basically is the perfect antidote to parenting guilt. His work showed us that kids don't need perfect parents, they need real ones. And traditional objects too, yes. That's why your childhood teddy bear felt like a lifeline during tough times. I forgot about the term, whatever. Fast forward a bit. A scientist called John Bowlby enters the scene. He's the guy behind attachment theory. His work is the reason we now have BuzzFeed quizzes about whether you're securely attached or avoidant. And let's not forget Hayden Koh, who brought empathy and self-esteem to the forefront with self-psychology. Cohort basically explained why we all crave a little validation now and then. By the late 20th century, psychodynamic theory had transformed. Therapists started focusing less on what's wrong with you and more on how do we figure this out together. Relational psychoanalysis was born, turning therapy into collaborative experience rather than a top-down lecture. So you might be thinking, this all sounds cool, but does it actually work? The answer is resounding yes. Let's start with Jonathan Shedler. His 2010 paper was a game changer. He found that psychodynamic therapy isn't just effective, it's a long-lasting effect. Unlike some approaches that focus on quick symptom relief, psychodynamic therapy gets to the root of the problem. It's like cleaning your house instead of just shoving everything into a closet. Then there's neuroscience. Have you ever heard of the default mode network? It's the part of your brain that lights up when you're daydreaming or reflecting. Essentially, it's like the brain's version of exploring the unconscious. which is exactly what psychodynamic theory is all about. Pretty weird, right? Attachment research is another goldmine. Remember the strange situation experiment by Mary Ainsworth? It showed how toddlers react when separated from their caregiver. Turns out those early attachment style, secure, anxious, avoidant, carry over into adulthood. Modern therapists use this research all the time to help clients untangle their relationship patterns. So, all right, let's get personal. Relationships. Whether it's your partner, your best friend, or that one coworker who someone manages to push all your buttons, psychodynamic theory has a lot to say. One of the big ideas here is transference. Ever felt like you're treating someone in your life like they're your parent or maybe your ex? That's trans reference in action. It's like carrying old emotional baggage into new relationship. The good news, once you recognize it, you can start unpacking the baggage. Attachment theory also helps us make sense of modern relationships. Take serious attached folks. They tend to handle intimacy and conflict pretty well. On the other hand, someone with avoidant attachment style might ghost you the second things get too serious. Psychodynamic therapy helps people understand these patterns so they can break the cycle. Let's also talk about social media. Ever notice how your Instagram profile is basically a curated version of your life? Fred might say that your super ego trying to pretend the ideal you, and ghosting. From a psychodynamic perspective, it could be avoidance rooted in fear of confrontation. So, what's next for psychodynamic theory? For starters, it's getting way more inclusive. Historically, this theory didn't pay much attention to how race, gender, and systemic operations shape the unconscious. That's changing. Modern therapists are bringing a more culturally sensitive lens to the work. Technology is another frontier. Teletherapy is booming, and AI tools are starting to pop up in mental health care. But let's be real, no AI can understand your unconscious the way a human therapist can. Still, tech is making therapy more accessible, and that's a win. There's also more focus on intersecurity, understanding how overlapping identities influence our inner world. It's about treating the whole person, not just one aspect of their life. And let's not forget interdisciplinary work. Neuroscience, social psychology, even AI, they're all contributing new insights. Psychodynamic theory isn't just surviving, it's thriving and evolving. And there you have it. Psychodynamic theory in the 21st century from its Freud era roots to its modern day applications. This theory has come a long way. It helps us understand ourselves, negative relationships, and make sense of the world in ways that feel both timeless and fresh. All right, thank you for listening to Yamcha Therapy with Hayden for this week. If you got any question of psychodynamic therapy, I am very open to answer back in the comment section. See you next week.